Standing over there, and I think this is a device he uses so that he doesn't have to actually meet me. But Tara came up and said he's got a roving mic and he's going to move around. You remember back to the intro I did at the beginning of lunch when I said this guy's a rock star, and he is, and we're very fortunate to have him here. Within Governor Snyder's administration, John oversees the state budget, overseeing the state's $47 billion annual budget. In addition, he's director of the Michigan Department of Technology Management and Budget, and is the Value for Money Group Executive on the Governor's Cabinet, representing the Budget Office, the Office of the State Employer, and DTMB. Reports directly to the Governor. As DTMB Director, he heads an agency of nearly 2,500 employees, providing a full range of information technology, business, administrative services. He has a credential list that's longer than your arm, but more importantly, he has a great message. And so with that, please welcome John Nixon, State Budget Director.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. I do have a tendency to walk around a little bit, but also I need to make sure I can see the slides. So if it's okay, I'm going to be down here with you all. It's a pleasure to come out and speak. I have the opportunity to speak every so often, and I really like speaking to groups like this because you guys are the guys that are making things happen. You know, we're optimistic. We think that we're reemerging as an economy, but really it's you guys who are providing the jobs and doing what it takes to make sure that the economy rebounds and that we have the money that we need to operate the state budget or the state government. I want to talk a little bit today about the economy, the current situation within the economy. I want to talk about some of the indicators. I want to talk about where we've been, where we've headed, where we're heading. I want to talk a little bit about the impact on the state budget, and then I want to talk about really the future, some of the things that we're doing, how we balance the state budget. It surprises a lot of people today when I get out and talk and I say, would you believe that we have one of the most structurally balanced budgets in the country? How many of that, does that strike you kind of weird? You know, we're Michigan. How can we have the best anything? Is what I think a lot of people ask. You know, this is a great state, and we've done a lot. We know that we've made some people upset with what we've done, but we've made some tough decisions, and I want to explain to you the rationale behind those decisions because there is a plan that we're working from. The good news here is, and I know as Mike Britt just mentioned to you, there's cautious optimism in the market right now. We're actually seeing things turn for us. How many of you see your businesses getting a little bit better now? I think I just heard some reports. This is good news, but we know that it's not 100% stabilized. We know there are still some we call them wind shears or risks out there that I'm going to talk about. But as George Fulton, the economist up at University of Michigan, said, our view is that the Michigan economy is in the early stages of recovery, and we're seeing that with our revenue collections. But this is what we've been through the last 10 years. At one point, I think it surprises people to know that maybe to you it wouldn't be surprising, but at one point we had lost half of all the jobs lost in America right here in Michigan. Okay, over the last 10 years, we've lost 815,000 jobs. You can see that now starting in 2011, we're starting to add jobs, which I can see here in this group just with the reports, that's ringing true. And so we see that it's starting to come back, but we know it's going to take quite a bit of time to get back to where we were. 815,000 jobs is a lot of jobs. There are a lot of jobs. Now, why is this important? These are taxpayers. These are people who go out and buy things and really create the economy. So it's really, really important to have the job growth. In fact, I would say a lot of people want to look at our next slide here, the unemployment rate, as, well, this is a good gauge of where the economy is. We really tend to look at job growth because the unemployment rate is a lagging indicator. And that is that the measure of unemployment are those who are actively seeking employment, ready, willing, and able to work. So what happens when the economy goes down and the state loses jobs? People get disinterested. They'll go back to school. They might take time off, and they actually come out of the numbers. But as the economy starts to rebound, we see those people re-entering the labor force, and hence that number lags. It'll trend up a little bit. In fact, over the last few months, it's actually increased while the economy's gotten better. And so, but the good news here, as you can see, is we're way down from our top. We're about 3% below our peak, and we're down another full percent based upon where we were a year ago. So it is headed in the right direction. You certainly don't want to sustain double-digit unemployment. And then we certainly want to cross the national average and get back down to a meaningful number. But we're headed in the right direction. This is an interesting dynamic that we've had here in Michigan. Back in the 70s, Michigan was an economic powerhouse. We ranked 12th when it came to personal income in comparison to the United States. We're now at number 36 as of 2010. So we know that this is some ground we need to make up as well. And why is this important? Personal income, money to spend in the economy, money coming in the front door to help pay our bills. And so you can see we've just kind of slowly eroded over time. But again, we're projecting that that's going to start coming back and increasing a little bit. So what is the result of this? Obviously, the result is less money coming into the state coffers. You can look at our general fund projection here. How many of you, does this look like some of your businesses? You've had less revenue coming in the front door. You can see back in 2010, we came off of the high of $9.3 billion. We'd just done some tax maneuvering that year. Then we just dropped by about 30%, 25-30%. Significant drop. And why is this important? You look at the available revenue. A lot of people, say, well, we've heard the budget's $47 billion. Why is the general fund piece? Well, why is the general fund piece important? The general fund piece is important because it's really the only unrestricted money that the legislature and the governor have to appropriate. All the federal money comes through with strings, and we've had a lot of federal money as of late with the stimulus money and so on and so forth. And a lot of the other funds are restricted to certain purposes. But this general fund amount here, which as you can see is increasing, which is a beautiful thing, is what we fund areas like this. I love this chart. This is our Medicaid growth line over the last 8 years on top. And on bottom is our general fund growth line. Okay, why do I like to show this? Medicaid's a federal program, but as a state we get to pay 35% of the bill. Okay, so as those caseloads go up, the cost to the state goes up. It's an entitlement program. And as those cases have gone up dramatically over the last several years, we've had to pay 35 cents on the dollar. Now, when you look at the general fund line being down that dramatically, it really creates a difficult problem. In fact, today in the state, we spend about 25% of our general fund budget on Medicaid. That's a pretty significant amount. Food stamps is a similar caseload. We know that as the economies go down, these programs are counter-cyclical, right? So Medicaid goes up, food stamp goes up, our supportive services, family independence program caseload goes up. Now, food stamps is 100% federally funded, but you can see the increased caseload. Today, out of every 5 people in Michigan receive food assistance, something that we need to fix, and certainly a growing economy will fix this. I don't mean to be depressing you right now. I know it's just after lunch, and I'm giving you some pretty, but what I'm trying to do is put into perspective what we've been dealing with. And then I want to tell you how we dealt with it, because it's pretty remarkable what we've been able to do and some of the early signs we've seen as far as payoffs as the tough decisions that have been made. Corrections. This is an interesting animal that we deal with here in Michigan. In fact, I came out of Utah, as was mentioned, and one of the first questions I got from the media when they asked me, when they knew I was coming, they started calling and wanted to talk for some reason. One of the media people asked me, they said, we've done some research in Utah. For every $3 you spend in higher education, you spend $1 in corrections. They said, in Michigan, we actually spend more dollar for dollar in corrections than we do in higher education. How many of you see that as a problem? Okay, that's a problem. And it was the first exposure I had to it. And since then, we've jumped in and looked at the corrections issue. And we have a new great director there, and we're making some good reforms in that area. But you can see back in 1982, it was 5% of our general fund budget. Today, it's 25%. It's about $2 billion is what our annual correction spend is. And so this is an area that we're looking at as well. So if you look at that one piece of revenue stream that I was showing you in the general fund, half of it's taken up in Medicaid and corrections. So there's not a lot of opportunity, a lot of flexibility in the other areas. What keeps me awake at night, and a lot of budget directors, are our unfunded liabilities. One of the first things Governor Snyder did when he took office, and it even started before he took office, is he created a citizen-friendly, comprehensive annual financial report, which basically told the public in public speak what our liabilities are. We have a $58.5 billion unfunded liability in this state. Within the state system, the state pension plan has about a $15 billion unfunded liability. Our post-retirement health care is about $14.5 billion. This is one that just this morning we're running some reforms that will cap the state's long-term liability for post-retirement health care. But let me just give you an example to put this into perspective. Today in Michigan, we spend, and again, I'm not trying to attack anybody, it's just one of the Jim Collins brutal fact moments. Today in Michigan, we spend 22% of payroll on post-retirement health care. Okay? That's not current health care benefits. Today we have 56,000 retirees who are buying health care for. It's about $420 million a year. Just this year, we set aside another $280 million to fund the actuarially required contribution for those who are currently working to make sure the benefits will be there when they retire. And the total amount of that is about $700 million, which is about 22% of payroll. And I throw that out there because we're trying to reform these liabilities. We're not trying to stick it to employees or stick it to anybody. What we're trying to do is say, what